Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angela Strong, and it is my privilege to be invited here today as we gather to celebrate the life of Martin. We have come together with love, respect, and gratitude to remember a man who meant so much to so many. While today is undoubtedly a day of sadness, it is also a time to reflect on a life well lived and to give thanks for all that Martin has brought to our lives. Each of us today knew Martin from a different chapter in his life. Some shared decades alongside him, while others knew him for a shorter time. Yet every friendship, every conversation, and every shared experience has become part of the story we honour today. Together, those memories help us to celebrate not only what Martin did in his life, but who he was as a person. Martin was the beloved husband and best friend of Ronny, married here at St David's 61 years ago. He was the dearly loved father and father-in-law of Derek and Michel, Stuart and Maria, and Adam and Gabi. He was the treasured grandfather of Abbie and Jack, Kieran and Peter, Rhys and Lisa, Hayden, Lily and Belle, and he was the adored grandfather of Caleb. A loved and respected brother-in-law, uncle, cousin, and friend to many. So on behalf of the family, I would like to warmly thank you all for being here today and to acknowledge those joining us via live stream. At times like this, we often struggle to find the right words, but your presence here says more than any words can. It is a reflection of the regard, affection, and respect that people held for Martin. A big thank you also to the many people who have supported Martin and Ronny in recent times. Your care has been greatly appreciated. So before we begin, I have a couple of brief messages. Firstly, I'll ask you to please ensure your phones are switched off or turned to silent. And if you haven't done so, please take a moment to write your name in the tribute books in the foyer so that the family can look back and remember who was here today. Following the service today, you're warmly invited to stay and share refreshments and fellowship here at St David's. And I have a special request from Ronny that she would really like you to please stay and spend time together sharing stories and memories of Martin. And also, as we know, when we're hosted by the Tankersleys, there will certainly be good afternoon tea. Okay. You're also all invited to attend as we lay Martin to rest at Clareville Cemetery afterwards. Now let's get on with celebrating Martin. We will begin with a hymn. It's called "The Day Thou Gavest, Lord, Is Ended." Thank you. I sat down to chat with the Tankersley family earlier this week, and then I went home and I looked at all the many, many tributes from our community online. It was clear that Martin's gift and the positive influence he had on others was far greater and reached much further than he ever would have thought. We spoke of a man who was above all a devoted family man, a caring husband, father and grandfather, whose family were at the very centre of his world. Whether it was a big family gathering, and those gatherings are huge, or simply spending time together, those moments meant everything to Martin. He followed the achievements of his children and grandchildren, his nephews and nieces, with genuine pride and enthusiasm, and nothing pleased him more than seeing those he loved doing well. I know that Martin's sons will tell us more about that later in the service today. Martin was a hard worker who, along with Ronny, successfully ran the family business Kemp Gooden for many years. Practical and capable, he loved tinkering with things and was always keen to take a look at whatever needed fixing. His shed was well stocked with tools, and there wasn't much he wouldn't have a go at repairing. He enjoyed keeping up with current events, reading the newspaper from front to back each day with a particular interest in the weather. Once he had finished reading it, the paper would be passed on to Ronny, although by then he had usually absorbed just about everything it had to offer, and Ronny got the news second-hand. He also enjoyed following as much rugby as possible, and I think it's fair to say he was a firm All Blacks and Hurricanes superfan. Martin loved travel too. Whether it was a weekend away or an overseas adventure, Ronny said he couldn't get on the plane fast enough, and he was always ready for the next trip, wherever that may be. Humble, loyal, kind, and quietly optimistic, Martin was not someone who sought recognition or praise for the things he achieved. Instead, he preferred to focus on helping others, contributing where he could, and getting on with the task at hand. He had a gentle nature, a warm smile, and an easy way about him that put people at ease. Even when life presented its challenges, he was not one to complain. In fact, when they would sit down in the evening, if Ronny remarked, "That was a boring day today," Martin would reply, "No, I wasn't bored." Martin's commitment to serving others was evident throughout his life. He cared deeply about his community and believed that leadership was about being available, approachable, and willing to help wherever he was needed. Whether it was serving as mayor, serving as a councillor, driving the ambulance for St John, contributing through JCs, or later serving as a Justice of the Peace, Martin approached every role with the same sense of integrity, dedication, and genuine concern for people. His family told me that when he was mayor, Martin truly embraced the responsibility of serving his constituents. He made himself available at all hours and was a familiar presence at the council offices, spending countless hours there to ensure people knew they could reach him if they needed assistance. If a resident rang in the middle of the night because their roof was leaking during a storm, Martin would go and see what he could do to help. If cows had escaped and were wandering onto the road, he would be out helping to round them up and keep people safe. If someone needed transport to a medical appointment, he would quietly step in and take them. No problem was too small, and no person was unimportant. A good and patient listener, people knew they could come to Martin with their concerns. He never promised more than he could deliver, but he would always listen carefully and do his very best to find a solution. It wasn't about recognition or status for him. It was simply about helping people and making life better for them. That same willingness to serve was evident during his time as an ambulance driver. Ronny shared an amusing story of a rural call-out where, while driving to assist someone in need, he crossed a cattle stop that promptly collapsed beneath the ambulance, leaving it firmly stuck. While I suspect it wasn't quite so amusing at the time, it has become one of the stories that has brought smiles and laughter to the family ever since. Now, before I finish, we also need to acknowledge that while Martin gave his time generously to many organisations and causes over the years, there may have been another factor at play. As we're all aware, Ronny has always been a wonderful community-minded person herself, and it seems she possessed a remarkable talent for finding worthwhile projects and then volunteering Martin for them. In fact, after hearing all the stories, I remarked that I don't think I've ever met a man who had been volunteered for quite so many things in his life. But in true Martin style, he took it all in good spirits and happily got on with the job. Together, Ronny and Martin made an incredible team. For 6 decades, their lives were woven together with love and a steadfast devotion to each other, to their family, and to making Carterton such a wonderful place to live. A beautiful testament to a lifelong partnership. So that's enough from me. I'm going to now hand over to the Tankersley family to share their memories.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see the church full. We've been really overwhelmed by the responses on Facebook and various posts there. Martin didn't really understand Facebook and likes and comments and things, but he would have been really chuffed. And he wouldn't have bothered to read them all because he wasn't the greatest reader. And just before I say the other little bit, the hymn that we chose, I knew a lot of people wouldn't know it, but it was the same hymn that my Auntie Nancy had at her funeral, which was not so long ago. And my Auntie Nancy was actually Martin's Martin's stepbrother, because his mother married my grandfather. So it was quite a complicated thing, and Nancy was lovely. Losing Martin's going to be a huge wrench for me, and my life will never be the same. I've been his carer for over 3 years, and he's been very easy to look after, never complaining, always patient and cheerful. We've been married for 61 years and it's been wonderful. So don't be too sad. He's over the suffering and he had a good life. Our 3 lovely sons are going to do the eulogy and speak of some memories.
All
right.
Good afternoon. I'm Derek, the eldest of Martin's 3 sons. Dad was born in Carterton over the road at Sister Mackenzie's on the 23rd of April 1942. His father had left for war, so apart from his brothers, his mother Amy was on her own, and his father died on the 18th of February 1944, killed at Monte Cassino, leaving Amy and Dad to survive. He never got to see his father. He started school aged 5 at Carterton School. His mother used to take him to school each day on the back of her bike. He then went to secondary school at Wairapa College in Marston. He travelled to school on the train and was on the last ever train that took kids to school in Marston, which is something I didn't know until just recently. He went to Scouts, was an excellent athlete, specialising in sprints, and was involved in Carterton athletics for many years. He loved rugby from a young age and played junior and senior rugby for Carterton for many years. After retiring from playing, he was a proud supporter of Carterton and Wairapa Bush Rugby and was a regular watching Carterton play. He also played squash and was a member of the Howardworth Squash Club for many years. When he was 12, his mother married Kemp Gooden. Kemp ran a home appliance shop in Carterton on the corner of Pembroke Street and High Street for those younger generation, where the New World car park is now. They sold home appliances, bikes, mowers, sports gear, TVs, stereos and lots more. From school, Dad trained as a diesel mechanic at Masson's here in Carterton. And when the TV boom came, Kemp asked Martin to work at the shop doing the aerials. So off he went and worked in the shop. When Kemp passed away in 1977, Dad ran the shop right through until they closed the shop in 1999. He loved fixing the bikes and mowers and used to fix up all the bikes for people, including the Salvation Army, long after the shop closed. He was approached to become a councillor and was duly voted in, where he stayed for several terms. The worst part was the mountains of reading, endless meetings, and the public speaking when he became mayor. He was approached to stand for mayor when Georgina Byer went into Parliament. He won the by-election and was voted back in at the next election, serving 1.5 terms as mayor. Someone described him as the humble mayor. In his early years, he was part of the JC movement here in Carterton, a voluntary organisation like the Lions and Rotary. He was a volunteer driver of the ambulance for St John's for over 20 years, getting many call-outs in the middle of the night and on weekends. He also did the community patrol here in Carterton for many years. He was a justice of the peace for 24 years until ill health forced him to retire. With his love of rugby, he was a long-time season ticket holder at the Wellington Stadium and made the trek down to Wellington to watch the Hurricanes, Wellington and the All Blacks. He loved following the Hurricanes and going to the games with his grandchildren on several occasions. When Dad married Mum, he was so happy and delighted when he became a dad to 3 sons. He was so proud of his boys and he hoped he had been a good father, even though he didn't show a lot of emotion and was able to carry the Tankersley name on. A point to note is that Dad died at home with Mum by his side, a home they built and lived in for just under 60 years. Dad was always happy to serve the community with his various works. He loved the news and weather, as they said before, and especially enjoyed reading the newspapers from cover to cover and enjoyed playing solitaire on his laptop. Dad was a kind, helpful man who had the most even-tempered, calm manner. The family cannot think of a single time when he lost his cool. He was the most loving, loyal, faithful husband to Ronny. Although hampered by ill health in the last few years, he was always an uncomplaining, cheerful person. To quote Martin, I look back at my life. I had a huge emotional experience when I visited my father's war grave. I enjoyed trips overseas and I was glad to be able to serve the community in ambulance, council, mayor and JP. R.I.P. Martin. Now here's a few notes from me personally. We never really had any deep discussions or life advice, but he was always there when we needed him. He came to all our important life and sporting events for us and his grandchildren. When we needed someone to look after our kids due to health emergencies, he was always there for us. Many memories of going to the rugby in Wellington. Excuse me. Several trips to Athletic Park before the Wellington Stadium was built. My earliest memory was Dad taking me out of school on a Wednesday to go and watch the New Zealand Juniors versus the British Lions in 1977 at Athletic Park. On many occasions, I went with Dad to install a TV or deliver a bike after hours. You would be hard placed nowadays to find someone to do this kind of thing after hours for free. When he was with the JCs, there were many fond memories. They used to have the hot dog stand here before the Lions took over for Gala Day events. During the week before an event, they used to gather at someone's house and make the hot dogs ready for the weekend. My love of hot dogs probably started then, as you can't beat homemade hot dogs. Also with the JCs, there was the lime drive where they made up and sold bags of manure and fertiliser products and collecting the dead lambs from farm gates around the Carterton region. He loved to go fishing, and we had lots of good times going down to Cape Palliser fishing and camping. We went on many tramps into the hills, and he went with us on many school camps. After closing the shop, he continued supporting the community by fixing bikes and electronics, mainly for free. And something that sums up Dad a lot was actually on my wedding day. When we got to the church, the minister said he had misplaced our wedding vows that we'd made up ourselves. I had a copy back at the motel. I asked Dad if he could go back and get it. So with no fuss and nice and calmly, he drove back to the motel, picked up the vows and brought back to the church just in time for the service. He was always helping out with someone if needed, from the bikes and electronics to life issues and times like skirting over to Wellington when Stu locked his keys in his car. He was very proud of his family and was always very supportive at sporting and other events when he was able to attend. He went to all sports events. He loved the international tennis and went to Auckland twice and Melbourne to the Australian Open. I spent a lot of time with him at the shop. He was very hard working with long hours in the shop. He was quiet and unassuming. Thank you.
Hello, I am Stuart Martin's second son. We've probably all got notes that are a little bit similar. Dad was a pillar of our community, a dedicated family man and a loyal friend who approached life with a rare blend of quiet strength, boundless generosity and a wonderfully dry sense of humour. When you look around this room today, you might notice something special. A few of us are wearing some very distinct, very impressive neckties. Those belong to Dad. He had a legendary tie collection, and wearing them today is just a small way we can keep his vibrant, sharp style close to us as we say goodbye. Dad was a man who simply got on with things. He volunteered tirelessly and never once complained. If he was the one who needed help, even recently when he was in the hospital, he was always reluctant to sing out because he truly never wanted to be a bother to anyone. He was always thinking of others first. That selflessness defined his entire life. For over 10 years he served on the community patrol, keeping our streets safe. He was involved in school gala fundraising with the famous wobbly bikes, which were also used in local parades. And of course there was his time as mayor. Around here he was affectionately known, particularly the other day when the policeman was at Mum and Dad's house, he said, oh, he was Carterton royalty. But if you knew Dad, he didn't step into that mayoral role for the power, the profile or the politics. He did it purely for the better of his town and the community he loved. He was also a man of action, hobbies and a lot of fun. He was a fantastic fishing buddy, always ready for trips down to Lake Ferry with me. He loved music. Many of us will forever associate him with the sounds of Dire Straits blasting from the shop while he and I unpacked new stereos and gear. He was a craftsman and fixer. He famously built me a 10-speed bike when I was young because I was too short for even the smallest 10-speed bike. So he made me one out of other parts, so it was just the right size for me. He spent years serving on the ambulance crew, also with me at some times. He would set his overalls out perfectly each night, particularly one night that Derek remembered where he went out to 3 separate call-outs. No matter how tough things got, he was always calm under what were sometimes truly gruesome circumstances. At home, he was the heart of the family. He loved the backyard swimming pool, even if he found the cold temperatures a bit of a challenge. We always fondly remember him emerging with completely blue fingers, shivering but smiling anyway. He was an absolute kid at heart, always right in the thick of things, playing ball tag and joining in with the fierce water fights with his grandkids. Dad accepted everything life threw at him with grace and a quiet resilience. He gave everything to his town, his friends and his family, asking for nothing in return. He leaves behind a legacy of service, laughter and a love that will live on in Carterton for generations. Rest in peace, Dad, you will be deeply missed.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam, the youngest son. When I was sort of the age of my children are now, I had a summer job at the council over summer. We had a 30-minute lunch break, and I was quite a fussy eater back then. Some would say I still are. But anyway, every lunchtime he would go and pick me up some bread rolls fresh from the supermarket next door and have them waiting for me when I cycled past to go home and quickly eat them and then zoom back to work. And it was just such a small gesture, but that was so him, quiet, thoughtful, and always looking out for us. When the weather played ball, we spent a chunk of time fishing in our aluminium boat out at Cape Palliser. Dad had an iron stomach in the swells, while Derek and our cousins Gary and Matt were hanging over the side, losing their stomach. Every January we'd spend a couple of weeks at the Blue Lake in Rotorua, and Dad loved trolling for trout in Lake Tarawera. It was one of his happy places. In the backyard, once again with cousin Matt and others, we used to play stock cars on our bikes. And that's sort of where, well, if anyone's been to a team stock car racing, there's blockers who block the fast cars and things. And so he sourced old bikes for us so that we could have collisions and not wreck our nice bikes. And because of the shop, we always had the latest and flashiest gear as well, whether that's tennis or squash rackets, hockey sticks, stereos, bikes. I remember having the fanciest Raleigh 20 complete with spokey dokies, which in its day was the envy of the other kids. And he made sure we could make full use of the large backyard we have at home, a huge orange cricket net, a golf driving net, even a hockey goal he found so that we could spend hours whacking a ball around. Dad and I once went to Sydney to watch the All Blacks in the Bledisloe Cup. Unfortunately, would you believe it was one of those rare occasions where the Aussies took us down. We stayed till the end of the match, but the other All Black supporters who were there stormed out early and the bus left without us. So, when Gabi and I were travelling in Europe, we were able to visit his father's grave at Monte Cassino in Italy. It was a stark, emotional place, and even our bus tour group was moved. Mum and Dad made the trip themselves the following year, something he thought he might never get to do. If you Google Dad about 10 years ago, the first image that came up was of him being kissed by Georgina Beyer. Two very different personalities, and somehow both looking perfectly at ease with it. And to close, when I look back on these memories, what stands out isn't the noise or the drama, it's the quiet consistency. Dad showed his love through actions, through opportunities, through the life he built around us. He was a quiet man, but his impact on our lives was anything but small. We will miss him, always.
Do you want to sit down?
You will sit down. I'll stand here with them.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to stay?
I'll stay.
Hello, my name is Kieran. I'm one of Martin's grandchildren. I heard your voice in the wind today. I heard your voice in the wind today, and I turned to see your face. The warmth of the wind caressed me as I silently stood in place. I felt your touch in the sun today as its warmth filled the sky. I closed my eyes for your embrace, and my spirit soared high. I saw your eyes in the window pane as I watched the falling rain. It seemed as each raindrop fell, it quietly said your name. I held you close in my heart today, and it made me feel complete. You may have died, but you are not gone. You will always be a part of me. As long as the sun shines and the wind blows, the rain falls, you will live inside me forever, for that is all my heart knows.
Yeah, maybe. I have a reading from Ecclesiastes. For every time there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time for war and a time for peace. God has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into our minds. Know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it nor taken from it. God has made it so.
Thank you, guys. I know it's really hard to get up here and talk about somebody so special, but you did a fabulous job. So now I'd like to open the floor if there's any other people here today, any friends that would like to share some stories of Martin.
I'm Peter Debney. I'm the registrar with the local Wairarapa Justice of the Peace Association. We'd just like to acknowledge, Ronny, Martin's extraordinary contribution. Derek, you mentioned Dad was 24 years at JP. He was actually 28 years. He was appointed by the Governor-General, Dame Kath Tizard, in the 19th of June in 1993. Martin completed 28 years in the role, carrying out his statutory and ministerial roles in an exemplary manner and administering the law insofar as he was authorised to do so, until he retired on the 31st of March in 2021. Life for Martin as a Justice of the Peace was one of community service, as so many other activities he is involved in, endeavouring to provide the best possible service and support for his Carterton community and all his clients. Martin often shared that there was something very special and fulfilling in being able to be available when people needed him most in matters that at that time were of vital importance to those who were involved. In exercising the powers and responsibilities of the Office of the Justice of the Peace, Martin was involved in dealing with the private matters and the rights of individual citizens from all ethnicities and social-economic backgrounds with respect and kindness. Martin exemplified the ethical standards in ensuring the confidentiality of all those matters. Ronny, we just have to say thank you and the family for sharing Martin with us all. Exceptional man.
Thank you, Peter. So, would anyone else like to come up and share? So perhaps, oh, yep, come up.
I'm speaking on behalf of Athol's brother, Hector Tankersley, and his family, myself, Roy, my sister Cheryl, my sister Jill, who lives in Australia, and my sister Lynn, and my brother Richard. So we're very pleased to be here today to honour Martin. Martin was my best man, and he was my best man at our weddings. Martin, I remember years ago, you lived in Carterton. I would visit our grandparents in Masterton, and I was always so excited as a 3 to 5 year old, or even beyond that, you coming up for the day to play with me, my only cousin on my dad's side. So we're very pleased to be here today and to honour this wonderful, quiet, hidden wit that came out occasionally. To be here today to honour this wonderful man. Thank you.
Ronny, Derek, Stuart, Adam, and your families. I'm Steve Cretney, the Carterton Mayor at present. Look, I really, just on behalf of Carterton Community and Carterton District Council, I really want to thank Martin for his service, his loyal service to the community for a long period of time. We are, I think, the heart of the Wairarapa, and we're an amazing community, and it's people like Martin who have brought us to the place we are now. As an aside from that, I feel the Cretney family and the Tankersley family have known each other for decades, and we both own shops, or the families own shops in town, Kemp Goodens and Wairarapa Sports Centre. So we were kind of in competition with each other, selling sporting goods, but we didn't have the bicycles and the audio equipment and all that side of stuff. But I remember as a young kid, and I'd get a puncture or something to do with my bike I'd have wrong, and I'd go and stand outside in Pembroke Street, and just there'd be all the bikes, and Martin would be in there, and I'd stand there, he'd come out and he'd say, "What's wrong, Steve?" And I'd tell him what was wrong, and he fixed my bike right then and there. And Mum was telling me just a couple of days ago about something, and I didn't remember this, but years ago, when I was a young fella, Mum and Dad gave me a Christmas present, and it was a computer battleship. I'm not sure if you remember computer battleship, but I think from my memory, it was one of the first games that came out, and it had a 9-volt battery, and Mum and Dad thought that it came with batteries, and it didn't. On Christmas Day, they wanted me to play with the game with my sisters, and Mum was a little, I guess, embarrassed that they didn't have the batteries, and she rang up Martin, and apparently a couple of other families did too. And Martin went down and opened up the shop and got a couple of batteries for my mum. And I honestly, that to me just shows the heart of the man. So I just, on behalf of our family, I just want to send our condolences and thank you.
Thank you to everybody who shared, and perhaps maybe you didn't want to get up and talk in front of everybody, but please tell some stories later when we have a cup of tea together, because all these stories come together, every story from every person, and it makes Martin's story. So it's really nice. So now, if you'll stand with me, we will now move to another hymn, How Great Thou Art. photographic journey through Martin's life, accompanied by two of his favourite songs.
These mist-covered mountains are a home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high, and though it hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different suns, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. Now the sun's gone to hell, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the stars. In every line in your palm, we're fools to make war on our brothers in arms. guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. We got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. Move on, move on. What's that? Hawaiian noises. He's banging on the bongos like a chimpanzee. Oh, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing. Get your chicks for free. We got to install microwave oven, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. Listen here, now, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Money for nothing. And the chicks for free. Get your money for nothing. And the chicks for free. Look at that, look at that. Money for nothing. And the chicks for free. Money for nothing.
Sharing those photos with us. I think it was really clear to see what a devoted family man Martin was. And I have to say, there was some pretty amazing fashion in those photos from a few years ago. Yeah. You weren't wrong about the ties either. Yeah. We're now moving to the time when we will give thanks for and say farewell to Martin. Today we have done more than mourn Martin's passing. We have celebrated the life he lived. A life measured not just in years, but in presence. And the example he set, the kindness and care he brought to others, and his commitment to our community. There's a quiet kind of greatness in a life lived like this. Though he will be deeply missed, Martin's legacy endures in the deep love he had for his family, the friendships he nurtured over many years, and the many lives enriched simply by knowing him. I invite you to go forth and share those gifts that Martin has given you, and honour him by passing them on to others in your life. You may wish to gift a skill he taught you, some knowledge he shared with you, an act of kindness, perhaps a small service to your community, so a part of Martin will remain and shine on in the world. Death ends a life, but it does not end a relationship. Martin will always be with you when you hear things he would have said, recognise the values he lived by, and find yourself smiling at memories that are yours to keep forever. Hold tight to those happy memories and reach for them when you need comfort. Speak of them often, for those stories and memories are truly an afterlife. I will now ask you to please stand with me as we commit Martin's body on the next step of his journey. Martin Athol Tankersley, as we bid you farewell, we say thank you for all that you gave to us in life. The warmth of your love, your humour and friendship, your help, guidance and wisdom, and the joy you brought wherever you went. Go forth from this world knowing that you are loved beyond measure, that you will be missed more than words can say. May your journey be gentle and your eternal rest peaceful. In sadness for your death, but with gratitude for your life, we say goodbye. And to all here today, be gentle with yourselves and each other. Let love into your hearts and give love away to those in need. May your memories one day turn from grief to comfort, the clouds gently lift, and your path become easier to travel. May you find peace today and all the days ahead. Now please stay up standing as we farewell Martin.
I
These mist-covered mountains are a home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high, and though it hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different suns, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. Now the sun's gone to hell, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the stars. In every line in your palm, we're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
We're going to begin today with Psalm 23. The Lord's my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in pastures green. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his own name's sake. Yea, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. In the presence of mine enemies, thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now we will commit Martin's body to the earth. Martin, Athol Tankersley, with great respect and care, we say goodbye to your body from this world. We commit you to the earth to return to nature, surrounded by the beauty of the mountains and the shelter of the trees. Here in Carterton, the place you called home. Your memory will be held forever in the hearts of those who love you, and you will be with them in the gentle breeze, the scent of the flowers, and the warmth of the sun. Go free, Martin. Let the deep and unconditional love here guide your way, and may you rest in eternal peace.
It's a long way down, kids. Poor old grandpa. There you go, everybody. With a goodbye from Martin. That's my brother. Yep. Did you realise that's my brother? Yeah. I forgot to tell you, kids. That's Kieran.
Michel will be having a good catch up.
Sweet. I'm standing way on top of his coffee.
It doesn't matter. There was a body under the coffin. The last midsummer murders we had. There was a body under the coffin. Yeah. And they were filling it in and this soaping Paula's racing.
How do they make these things up?
Oh, Martin enjoyed them. He didn't always know what was happening. But right. So we're all going to end up unless you want to be doing stuff. always did so well. I'm really proud of you. Dad would have been so proud.
Considering the amount of time you tried to stay on.
Especially as Derek didn't put you onto everything like he usually does.